Hello everyone, welcome to back my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before starting the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Georgie and Mandy's first marriage episode 3 uses a gag to plant the plot seeds for Georgie and Mandy's divorce. The Big Bang Theory didn't reveal much about what happened between baby T's parents, and that's part of the reason why it's an exciting story to tell after the young Sheldon final. Unlike its parent series, Georgie and Mandy's first marriage has more creative room to craft the couple's story moving forward. That said, certain story details were established in The Big Bang Theory that the Montana Jordan and Emily Osment series need to follow, such as their eventual split. Several members of the Cooper family appear in the first 2 episodes of Georgie and Mandy's first marriage. That said, in episode 4, Secrets, Lies and a Chunk of Change, the sitcom's storytelling shifts towards focusing on Georgie and Mandy's relationship, specifically their financial status. While Georgie ended up being a successful entrepreneur in The Big Bang Theory, he and his family of 3 are still struggling to make ends meet, especially as her husband discovers Mandy's spending habits. In the end, they solve the issue, but Georgie and Mandy's first marriage also plants plot seeds for their eventual separation. Georgie and Mandy's first marriage episode 3 ends with the couple deciding that, moving forward, they will be committed to making their partnership work. A big part of that is not keeping any secret from each other, following the discovery of Mandy's bad spending habits. The conversation is actually a good sign of a healthy dynamic, as it indicates that they are both committed to making their partnership work. As a funny way to end the scene, however, the camera pans to Mandy and Georgie's faces after making the pact, revealing that both of them still have some untold stories. The bit is done for comedic purposes, and sadly, Georgie and Mandy's first marriage episode 3 never revisits the idea again. That said, it's possible that this moment will have an impact on future storylines. Georgie and Mandy's age gap kick-started their relationship. It wasn't an ideal way to start an affair, but over the years, including the birth of baby T's, they have developed real feelings for each other. As Georgie and Mandy's first marriage continues, their inevitable split will only be more heartbreaking. There are several reasons for their eventual split, including the potential meddling of Audrey, who clearly doesn't like Georgie. That said, whatever secret they are keeping from each other can add to those factors that could drive a wedge between them. At this point, the real problems in Georgie and Mandy's first marriage will not be present in its storytelling. The show still has a lot of storytelling left, and unlike young Sheldon, there's no time limit up to until when Georgie and Mandy's marriage will last. Still, these smaller moments will eventually pile up and result in their eventual split. At first glance, First Marriage Episode 3 seemed like just another light-hearted installment in the early days of Georgie and Mandy's quirky, chaotic love story. There were plenty of laughs, snarky one-liners, and sweet moments that made viewers root for the unlikely couple. But beneath the surface of all the giggles and newly awkwardness, a single blink and "you'll miss it" gag quietly planted the seeds for a far more devastating future. And if you've been paying close attention, you'll realize the show just hinted at Georgie and Mandy's eventual heartbreak, and it did it with a joke. Yes, First Marriage might wear its comedy badge proudly, but in episode 3, the writers slid in a subtle moment that suggests something far more tragic may be looming down the line: Georgie and Mandy's divorce. It's a sobering thought, especially since the series has only just begun to explore their domestic bliss. But for those who know the broader context, and especially longtime fans familiar with the characters' canon futures, that joke wasn't just a throwaway, it was a warning. The moment comes roughly halfway through episode 3, during a scene that initially plays like classic sitcom humor. Mandy, exhausted after a long day of juggling parenting duties and freelance work, jokes to Georgie, "If I ever go missing, just check the closet. I've probably locked myself in to escape the madness." Georgie chuckles, replies with a goofy quip about joining her in there, and the scene rolls along. But if you read between the lines, that moment speaks volumes. It's a gag, yes, a wife making a sarcastic comment about wanting to escape the chaos of her life. But it's also a quietly profound admission. Mandy is already feeling overwhelmed. She's struggling to find her identity outside of being a mom and a wife. The honeymoon phase is cracking just slightly, and while the laugh track masks it, that line is a red flag in disguise. Mandy's joke isn't just a throwaway, it's a breadcrumb that leads to a future we now know might not be so picture perfect. Why this matters more than it seems. What makes this gag even more heartbreaking is how naturally it blends into the comedic rhythm of the episode. It's subtle, it's familiar. It's the kind of humor that couples use to mask deeper struggles, a way to laugh off feelings that are harder to say out loud. And that's exactly what makes it so effective. It mirrors real life in a way that's quietly gut-wrenching. How many relationships fall apart not with screaming matches, but with jokes, sighs, and silent discontent? This scene hints that Mandy may already be experiencing the isolation that often precedes emotional distance in a marriage. She's joking about locking herself away from the world, but what she's really expressing is a need for space, something Georgie doesn't seem to fully register. And therein lies the tragedy. It's not that Georgie doesn't care, it's that he doesn't see it, not yet. A bittersweet foreshadowing. For fans who know the larger universe these characters are drawn from, especially those familiar with young Sheldon, this moment becomes even more poignant. Canon has already hinted that Georgie and Mandy's relationship may not have a fairy tale ending. In fact, it's been heavily implied that the couple eventually splits. And now First Marriage appears to be planting the first seeds of that future. The showrunners are clever. They're not rushing into melodrama or overt tension this early in the series. Instead, they're doing something far more haunting. They're letting the comedy do the talking. By burying these emotional hints in jokes and playful banter, they're building a slow burn that will make the eventual fallout even more heartbreaking. Because when, or if, the divorce finally comes, viewers will look back at this moment and realize it was there all along. Mandy's silent struggles. Episode 3 also does something else that's quietly powerful. It shows us just how much Mandy is sacrificing. Her career, her social life, her personal time, all of it seems to be slipping through her fingers, even as she tries to stay upbeat. She's still smiling, still laughing, still trying to be the supportive partner and loving mother. But there are cracks forming, and they're starting to show. It's not hard to imagine that in the episodes to come, those cracks will widen. Maybe Mandy will start to feel unseen. Maybe Georgie's lovable goofiness will stop being charming and start being frustrating. Maybe that closet joke will stop being funny and start feeling eerily prophetic. Georgie's obliviousness, endearing or dangerous? While Mandy's struggles are quietly surfacing, Georgie seems blissfully unaware. He's sweet, he's funny, he's trying, but he's not tuned in. And that's another gut punch that episode 3 delivers with subtlety. Georgie's lack of awareness isn't malicious, but it's potentially damaging. He's so caught up in being the provider and the comic relief that he's not seeing the emotional weight his wife is carrying. And that's the quiet tragedy brewing beneath the laughs. Sometimes, it's not the big betrayals or explosive fights that break a marriage. Sometimes, it's the slow, quiet erosion of connection. When one partner starts to drift, and the other doesn't even notice until it's too late. The comedy masking the pain. If First Marriage continues down this road, it could become one of the most emotionally complex sitcoms on television. Episode 3 proved that it's capable of weaving tragedy into comedy in a way that's both subtle and devastating. That's no small feat. And if the writers continue layering these kinds of emotional landmines beneath the surface, the show's eventual heartbreak will hit like a freight train. Right now, viewers are still laughing. But that close-it gag, that tiny moment of comic relief, might just be the first domino to fall. And when it does, it'll feel like the saddest joke ever told.